Everyone wants their own private island, right?
Yeah, I guess so.
Well, not these private islands. No matter how cheap they are, people refuse to buy these strange places. From tragic histories to intense yearly flooding, these islands just aren't worth the risk. They've housed prisons, asylums, and some have hidden conditions that make buyers beware. There are $500 islands like Pitcairn, but with a troubled past and zero opportunities for growth, the island getaway just isn't worth that tiny price tag. Here are 10 private islands that you could buy, but you probably won't want to. This man-made island is an abandoned 19th century military installation in the Patapsco River in Baltimore County. It was constructed during the American Civil War to protect Baltimore from enemy approach, but it's now for sale and can be yours for just $31,500. But there are lots of issues with the fort. While you'd probably have the most unique home out of all of your friends, the island is now overrun by thousands of birds. It's also hard to access the island, and providing the land with utilities would be a real challenge. Plus, the fort is falling apart, so destroying it would probably be necessary to make it a livable home. Except Baltimore isn't too keen on that idea. In a lot of ways, the fort is a historical site, so they're very picky about what you can do with it. The fort was once sold to someone who wanted to turn it into a casino, but gambling isn't entirely legal in Baltimore, so those plans were scrapped and the island was put back up for sale. So if you're looking for a party island, this probably isn't the place for you. The islands of the Motu Matatati in French Polynesia are up for sale for about $260,000 apiece. The island is surrounded by a blue lagoon, picturesque white beaches, and the weather's pretty wonderful. Sounds like paradise, right? Well, there are a few minor issues with the island. First, it's incredibly polluted, with trash constantly washing up on shore. Second, there are high levels of radiation all over the island because from 1960 to 1996, France carried out numerous nuclear tests in the South Pacific. Afterwards, scientists discovered illnesses like cancer linked to these tests, so choosing to live on the island is a risk that most people aren't willing to take. If the pollution and radiation aren't enough, there's also a lot of unpredictable weather conditions on the island, including cyclones, tsunamis, floods, erosion, and landslides. Plus, rising sea levels threaten to eventually put the entire island completely underwater. There are also annual droughts on the island, making whoever chooses to live there dependent on rainwater for a few months each year. That doesn't sound very relaxing. Pitcairn Island is in the Pacific, and authorities will actually give you free land if you're willing to live there. While the island is only 2 square miles, there's always good weather and warm water to enjoy. But Pitcairn has a dark past, and most island buyers aren't willing to be a part of it. In 2004, a scandal rocked the small island. The mayor and 6 others were imprisoned for assaulting minors. Since then, the island has had a bad reputation, and its population has shrunk to less than 50. But if the bad vibes don't scare you away from the island, a few other things might. There are no jobs, only one general store, and you have to order food 3 months in advance, and it'll cost you $3,383 just to travel to and from the remote island. But if you don't mind the seclusion and cost of travel, you could even pass up the free land offer and buy yourself a $500 private island off the shore. Sandy beaches and blue water included, but don't expect to do much socializing while you're there.
Did that thought ever cross your brain? Well, regardless, I would rather take my chance out there on the ocean.
Doxa Island is on the market for just €2 million. Off the coast of Dubrovnik, it comes complete with immense woodlands and private beaches, and also a lot of human remains. At the end of World War II, Yugoslav partisans rounded up over 300 people accused of being German collaborators. About 50 of them were brought to Doxa Island, where they were executed without trial. The remains were left unattended on the island for years, which leads many to believe that parts of the sandy beaches are mixed with, human ash. The bodies did receive a proper burial in 2010, but most were never identified. If the idea of living amongst these tragic remains doesn't bother you, then maybe the gorgeous Franciscan monastery that's been on the island since 1281 might tempt you to pack up and move there. But keep in mind, the island is uninhabited and rarely visited, and it might be hard to convince your friends to visit your dreary new digs. Poveglia Island has had no shortage of uses over the years. There aren't many good things to say about this 72,000 square meter island. It's on sale for about $700,000, but keep in mind, you'll have a lot of decaying buildings to deal with, like a church, a hospital, and an asylum. Just off the coast of Italy, Poveglia was used to house victims of the plague in the Middle Ages. Thousands of infected people lived here, and their bodies were dumped into mass graves. Then during the 1920s, it became home of a mental institution, which has a bad reputation for its inhumane conditions and procedures. Since then, the the island has been bought and sold a few times with no one willing to hold on to the property. The Italian government is very picky about what can be done on the island. Turning it into a vacation resort has been turned down before, and it's very difficult to get approval to tear down the buildings. Would you be willing to live here if you had to keep all the tragic, decaying structures as is? Drop your thoughts in the comment section below. Are you on the market for a whopping collection of 6 islands? Even if you are, you probably still won't want these. There's not a whole lot wrong with the Piazza Busu Islands at first glance. Located on the San Francisco River in northeastern Brazil, the 81.58 acres of islands have unique wildlife and wonderful views. For $79,500, it seems like a bargain. But there's a reason they're still on the market. If you shell out the money for these islands, you're actually only buying the right to use them for 99 years. While that might not be a problem for you, it's hard to throw your money into a deal worth thousands of dollars that your family will eventually have to give up. Plus, the islands come with hidden costs from the government. They're apparently subject to some vague, small yearly taxes. Accessing the island is also incredibly difficult, so making a resort would be expensive and worthless. See, this is why you need to read the fine print. They call Tillamook Island Terrible Tilly for a reason. It's not a traditional island, it's actually a lighthouse off the coast of Oregon on a huge rock. But it's private and has an amazing 360-degree view from the top of the lighthouse. Plus, the price has dropped from $500,000 to just $50,000. The only problem is, you might get swept away by waves at any moment. The island has a history of people being swept out to sea. In the 19th century, a surveyor was taken by a wave and never seen again. And more recently, a group of workers were busy doing construction on the lighthouse when all of their tools, belongings, and food were swept away by huge waves, which left them stranded for days. Yeah, this small island isn't very nice to its residents. A majority of the island disappears when tides rise, so there's not much land to explore, but it's the perfect place to hide out in a lighthouse if that's your sort of thing. Little Rocky Island is an adorable 8-acre island off the coast of Nova Scotia, Canada. For 98,000 Canadian dollars, this island's white sandy beach and gorgeous forests could be all yours. But if you're looking for a tropical getaway, this is not the place for you. The island's warmest month is August, when temperatures only reach about 16 degrees Celsius or 60.8 degrees Fahrenheit. In the winter, it drops to about -8 degrees Celsius or 17.6 degrees Fahrenheit. So there's not much sunbathing done on this island getaway. But that's not the only problem with the island. It's actually only a part-time island because when tides start to fall, a sandy path is revealed that leads to the mainland. This could be a bonus for some people, but those who are on the market for a private island would rather buy, you know, an actual island. But it could be the perfect spot for a little winter cabin if you've got a few $1,000s to spare. Chandler Island is the tiniest island on this list. It's only a single acre in size, but it comes with a picturesque view of Maine. You can buy the island for only $39,999, and there's even a small cabin included so you don't have to hurry up and build yourself a house. Oh, but there is one teeny tiny small catch. When the tide rises, it covers half of the already small island, so at high tide, your private island becomes about the size of an average backyard. And any construction projects have to be limited so that they don't get flooded when the tide comes in. There are still a few bonuses to the tiny island if you don't mind being limited to your little cabin for a big portion of the day. It's easily accessible by boat and close to the city of Bangor. And at low tide, you can walk to the mainland because the water is only waist deep. Plus, if you're a Friends fan, you could stay on the island named after Chandler Bing. Could it be any more perfect?
Look at me! I'm Chandler. Could I be wearing any more clothes?
This next entry is the private island that's just not private enough for most people. It's technically a cluster of islands called Sheep Lake Islands, and while they're surrounded by crystal clear waters and lots of marine life, the rocky and forest-covered islands don't offer much distance from their neighbors. Sheep Lake Islands are Nova Scotian islands just 25 miles from the nearest fishing village. While this is convenient, it also means that villagers and tourists are often roaming all over the islands as they explore its natural wonder. Also, the islands are kind of in the middle of a bunch of land, so if you want ocean views as far as the eye can see, yeah, you're not getting that here. The peaceful setting is nice in theory, but it's not the best place to get away from everything if that's what you're looking for on a private island. But if you're okay with that, you can buy the island for just $50,989. And at least there's plenty of fish nearby if you're a big fan of seafood. Despite the complications, are any of these islands on your wish list? And which ones would you absolutely refuse to buy? Let us know your thoughts in the comments. Don't forget to like this video and subscribe to The Richest. Thanks for watching. We'll see you next time.